Red Bull is one of F1's newest and youngest big teams. In fact, it only started in 2005, and since then it has racked up 6 drivers' titles and 5 constructors' crown, and actually sits 6th in the all-time wins list. Pretty incredible, really, given it's only been around for a couple of decades. It's also launched the career, of course, of quite a few drivers. Now, for this list, we've included other drivers within the Red Bull family, still in F1, but AlphaTauri, Toro Rosso drivers are included as well. Otherwise, we would struggle to get to the 10. So let's get into it.
Gentlemen, a short view back to the past.
Number 10, Alexander Albon. Now, Albon was on the verge of a Formula E career when Daniel Ricciardo leaving Red Bull at the end of 2018 triggered a sequence of events that got him into the Toro Rosso for 2019. He then performed well enough to get his opportunity when Pierre Gasly was struggling alongside Max Verstappen in the main team and was elevated to the major team in the middle of the 2019 season. He'd already showed flashes of brilliance, such as his drive to 6th at the German Grand Prix, and had proved good at bouncing back from setbacks such as some fairly major accidents. Like Gasly, Albon struggled to get on Max Verstappen's pace in the lead car, perhaps unsurprisingly, but he didn't get admired as much in the midfield and was kept on for the following season. Now, he did score 2 overall podiums, which is partly why he gets onto this list, but he didn't do enough to save his seat for 2021. He was replaced by Sergio Perez, and of course, that was his Red Bull chance gone, at least for now. Number 9, Daniel Kvyat. Has anyone had as many chances as Kvyat in the Red Bull programme? It's difficult to think so, given he seems to have been called up repeatedly. I think it was in the end actually about 3 times. But the reason he's on this list is that he's actually the 3rd highest scorer for the Red Bull junior team, as it were, Toro Rosso, then AlphaTauri, behind only Pierre Gasly and Carlos Sainz. Now, Kvyat did well enough alongside Jean-Eric Vergne in 2014 at Toro Rosso to get his chance in the main team in 2015 after Sebastian Vettel left alongside Daniel Ricciardo. He actually ended up scoring more points than the Australian, although it was fairly clear who the team leader was. Ricciardo was a little bit unfortunate that season. Now, Kvyat took his 2nd podium for Red Bull at the 2016 Chinese Grand Prix, but it was already really too late thanks to the rise of Max Verstappen, and he was removed from his role, replaced by Verstappen, and put back into the Toro Rosso outfit for the Spanish Grand Prix, which of course Verstappen famously won. And that seemed to get to Kvyat's head, perhaps understandably, and he struggled through that season and the following season and was dropped, but got called up again in 2019. And he did a solid enough job, but was outperformed by Pierre Gasly. So finally, after those opportunities and some flashes of brilliance, but never quite stringing it together, Kvyat lost his drive at the end of 2020 and was replaced by Red Bull's next up-and-coming driver, Yuki Tsunoda, and it remains to be seen where he might end up on this list in future. Number 8, Pierre Gasly. Now, based on his time just in the senior team, the main Red Bull squad, Gasly probably wouldn't be as high up on this list, but given what he has managed to do in the B team, don't really like calling it that, but that's what Toro Rosso and AlphaTauri tends to be regarded as, that puts him higher up on this list. Now, Gasly saw off Brendan Hartley at Toro Rosso in 2018 to get his chance at Red Bull when Daniel Ricciardo left the main Red Bull squad, but he really struggled alongside Max Verstappen and was replaced halfway through 2019. So he was demoted back to the B team again, where he once again flourished. Now, it's probably fair to say that across 2020 and 2021, Gasly was one of the best drivers in that very competitive midfield bunch. And of course, he had his day of days by winning the Italian Grand Prix ahead of McLaren's Carlos Sainz. Now, the AT03 was a more difficult proposition in 2022, and Gasly really struggled along with teammate Yuki Tsunoda, and he's off to Alpine for 2023. It remains to be seen whether we'll see him back in the Red Bull fold. I suspect not, so his place on this list is probably a pretty solid 8th. Number 7, Carlos Sainz. Is Sainz the driver that Red Bull let slip away? Given his performances at McLaren and then Ferrari, it's easy to think that perhaps he was. Now, Sainz came into F1 alongside Max Verstappen at Toro Rosso in 2015. Now, Verstappen did score more points, but actually Sainz won the qualifying battle 10-9, and there was enough tension in the camp to very much feel that Verstappen thought that Sainz was a genuine rival. When Verstappen was promoted to the main team early on in 2016, Sainz really stepped up to lead Toro Rosso, and he was one of the outstanding performers in 2017. In his 7th place at the Chinese Grand Prix, he was one of the best drives of the entire season. He scored all but 5 of the team's 53 points that season, but already he was heading for the door. He finished the season at Renault before heading to McLaren in 2018, and from there, of course, launched his career towards Ferrari. Nevertheless, only Gasly has scored more points for Toro Rosso AlphaTauri. Number 6, Sergio Perez. Now, when we did the first version of this list, Perez was actually only 8th, but he's now added a couple of wins in the main Red Bull squad and of course did help Red Bull to take that Constructors' title in 2022, so he's moved up this list a bit. Now, after trying both Gasly and Albon to replace Daniel Ricciardo, Red Bull looked outside of its own pool of drivers to get Racing Point driver Perez. It's been partially successful. He has on occasion been quite close to Verstappen, close enough to give them some strategy assistance or in fact delay his main rivals at Mercedes, for example Lewis Hamilton in 2021, but there's also been times where he's been quite a long way off the pace. Now, one could argue that Perez losing out to Valtteri Bottas in 2021 was the difference between Red Bull and Mercedes in their constructors fight, Mercedes taking one while Verstappen won the drivers' title for Red Bull. But he did bounce back to win 2 races in 2022 and finish 3rd in the drivers' table, which so far is his best performance. It'll be interesting to see if he can really step up from that point in the future or whether he'll always now be Max Verstappen's number 2. So that was the first 5 people on our list. Stick around for the big hitters in the second part. If you like this video, please do click the like and subscribe buttons and head to Motorsport TV for other great motorsport videos.